This is your captain speaking.
Welcome back to This Is Your Captain Speaking, the podcast where we give you access to New Zealand's top technology executives and their stories. This week, we're catching up with Duanne O'Brien, the CTO at Eroad, one of New Zealand's largest listed technology businesses. He's going to talk to us about whether a CTO should code or not, how he goes about creating high-performing teams, and what he is a little bit nervous about but curious about around startups in New Zealand. Hi, I'm Julian Lambert. I'm one of the directors at Potentia. I run the leadership search desk there. Nice to meet you.
You too. I'm Duanne O'Brien. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Eroad, and I run all of the software engineering, security, professional services.
That sounds like a big job.
It is. It can be.
So what's on your mind as a leader in technology at the moment?
Biggest thing on my mind is developer productivity. I've spent some time over probably the last year really looking at the way we run developer productivity in New Zealand, which is normally on the side of the desk, someone's part-time job, all the way through to, I got to spend some time with the VP of DevProd for MongoDB last year, and she was telling me that at that time they had about 1,000 engineers, and they had 60 just working in DevProd to support those other 940.
Yeah, right.
So that's quite a large percentage.
Do you think that's like where we are now with productivity and developer productivity, just in general, even the kind of the early adopters of the latest and greatest productivity tools, where do you think it's going to get to? Like, where is it now? Where do you think it's going to get to? What are the easy fixes?
Well, I think that agentic AI is going to play a large part of the engineering process. It's a topic that's probably been discussed at length.
Yeah.
But there is no doubt that early generative AI, I should say, has helped, and it's like script kiddies on steroids in a way, copy paste. But actually, agentic will make a big difference, and it will be in areas like QA, auto generation of test cases, things like that, analysis. What does this 1,000 line stored procedure really do?
I think there's a bunch of companies who would like to know what that 1,000 line stored procedure actually
helps
does.
a lot. Yeah, so it's a real thing, but I don't see it being something that's going to replace engineers. And I think that I was fortunate enough to be in Microsoft's head office in Redmond a couple of weeks ago. We were talking to them about that, and their slogan is, that engineers aren't going away, but engineers not using AI will go away.
Yeah,
and I would agree with that.
That's a common comment, right, from a bunch of different leaders who are able to probably see a little further and see to a different horizon. And really, it's plotting an existing trend, right? Because we've gone away from scripts, and then we went into the frameworks which allow pre-population, and now it's that next level of evolution. But we don't know what the next two kind of evolutions look like.
Agreed, and we probably didn't. We probably had an idea of what was coming with AI, but we didn't really understand it until we had it in our hands. And you're right. I mean, when I first started writing code, we used Notepad, and then we got integrated development environments and stuff like that.
Not punch cards, eh?
No, I was slightly after that. Although I did work with people who used those. And we got real-time debugging and all those sorts of things. And then probably another major evolution for us was the rise of observability tools, so we can know what's going on in production and all that. So these are just steps forward. But I think this is quite a big step, and it will lower the bar for entry. But that will also it may inhibit people to becoming senior as well. They might rely very heavily on these tools without understanding. So for me, I only did rudimentary assembly programming, but at the end of the day, everything goes down to machine
ones
code.
and zeros.
Yeah, so we're becoming more and more abstract. Good on some ways, and not being able to go as deep on others.
I mean, developer productivity seems like a thing that's on a lot of different technology leaders' lists at the moment. Is that why you became a technology leader? That you saw opportunities for productivity improvement? Like, what was the thing that jolted you into that journey?
That's a really good question. I got jolted into it. I was a lead integration engineer architect, and I was leading the sort of the birth of an integration services team for quite a large telco in New Zealand. And
one of the 2.5.
yeah, one of the 2.5. And they were heading into a demerger. And so they needed to uncouple a lot of their platforms, and bringing in integration was a big part of that. And we were only a few weeks into it, and a guy who became a really good friend of mine pulled me aside and basically told me I was wasting my time. He said to me, "You're not doing what you're really good at, and you're not really doing what you are good at." And I'm like, "Help me understand that." He said, "Well, you value the engineering." And I'm like, "Yeah, I really do. In fact, I look at my day and I think about how many lines of code I've written, defect counts, all that sorts of stuff." And he's like, "Yeah, but it's the conversations that you have with people is what you're really strong at." I took that as a personal insult.
Oh, imagine so.
I took
So
that,
hang on.
yeah, I'm like, and I think it took me a while to really work through that. And then I realized, actually, he's probably right. I'm probably not the best engineer, but I actually love being in front of people. The difficult thing was to change from those tangible outcomes every day, every week, to the intangibles. Feeling good about going home, having whiteboarded a few things, and people are off doing some stuff. Felt like I wasn't really achieving, but actually I was.
It's that locus of control, right? Because you are always in control. Well, no, you are usually in control of your own output, and you can control those things. But then as you move away from that, it becomes just influence, right?
Yeah,
and
100%.
Motivation and systematic kind of disciplines and processes, etc. And it's like,
and now I really enjoy it. I really enjoy that part of it, and I know that it's not for everybody, and that's okay too. But I always kind of fall back to, if I don't, who will?
Yep.
And so I lean pretty hard into being ambitious, setting big expectations, and really rallying the team around them understanding what we need to achieve and why we need to achieve it, and then setting them the task of building the plan to get it done.
It's interesting, because I think that there's probably a whole bunch of people in the technology sector who started their journey in engineering and saw the ultimate goal as being a CTO or an architect, right? Often those two things are the paths that people want to pursue. But what's actually involved is probably quite different from what they imagine.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. What do you think? How would you describe it? Like, what does your day actually look like? Like, well, no, maybe not day, maybe your month. Like, what is it? Is it lots of whiteboarding? Is it lots of difficult meetings? Is it saying the same stuff again and again and again?
It's
like,
certainly.
What does it really look like?
Yeah. So there are parts to the month that are fixed. So board reporting is one of those, and that is a reporting. I also I'm secretary on our tech committee as well. And those sorts of things, there is no apprenticeship for. Before you're in it, you haven't seen it, and when you're in it, you're in it, and you've got to
be
learn.
good.
Yeah, it can be really, really rewarding. So board is something that can't be moved. Then when we come down into let's say weekly things like startups on Monday morning, what does that look like, and what's the focus point, setting the tone for the week. Our executive team would meet on Tuesday morning. We have challenges with our time zones with our executive team. We have executives in Philadelphia, Chicago, Auckland, Sydney, Manila. And at the moment, Manila to...
Is there any overlapping time zone?
No,
there?
there's no. It's difficult. So it's something like 5 a.m. in Manila. It will be 5 p.m. in Philadelphia. And so we really value the couple of hours there, and that can be challenging when you go to Manila every day as a 4 a.m. start, because you've got to start at the 5 a.m., which is Auckland's 9 a.m.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tuesday.
Doesn't sound like there's a lot of romance so far in the badge.
It can be challenging, but it's also really rewarding. I get to meet amazing people around the world, work with fantastic companies that we partner with. I look at some of the partners that I deal with on a weekly, monthly basis, and they're some of the very best tech companies in the world, and they've got a strong representation locally. So, a BAU would be startups, and then exec, and at the back end will be the weekly reporting on that. In that is quite fluid. It just really depends. We're heading into quarterly planning, so that will be 4 days. We've just come back from a 2-week stint in the US, board and exec working together on strategy and stuff like that. So most of it though is if I look at horizons, I task my directors to be on point for 0 to 6.
Their direct
My
reports?
my director of platforms or my director of whatever it might be. So my direct reports are normally the CISO and the VPs of platform and VP of engineering. So the first horizon being the 0 to 3 to 0 to 6 months. What's happening right now is their primary focus. Then I ask my VPs to be more looking at the sort of the 3 to 12. And then I task myself with being more the 6 to 36 months. What are we going to do? So if you look at things like right on my radar right now is, the government's obviously announced changes to fuel tax and moving to road user charges for consumers. We do that at Eroad significantly for commercial fleets. And so I'm looking at everything from what would be a B2C type experience, what would be the tech required to power that versus our heritage in B2B. So that's an example of the kind of long-term thing that I'm focused on.
And does that mean that much of your time, it sounds like a lot of time in meetings, but the nature of those meetings are around, how can I equip or coach my direct reports or my reports of my reports around how they can focus and deliver on the next kind of
Absolutely.
3 to 12, 1 to 3 or 3 to 12. But then also the context of those meetings is like analysis or design or looking at the softer aspects of the business and saying, how's that going to work to be able for us to deliver that strategy? And then you mentioned like vendors, managing the vendors or the direct communications with those. So actually it sounds like a lot of the time that you spend doing is reporting, drawing diagrams, having conversations with people, adjusting or dealing with fires, right? I mentioned dealing with fires.
That is part of it.
Risk.
One challenging part of my role is that for a severity 1 issue, I'm on call 24/7. Ultimately, it will get escalated to me. Normally, it would be a sort of a triangle of the chief product officer, chief customer officer, and me, and we'll be on calls going, okay, what's the impact, what's the reach, all that sorts of stuff. So that definitely does happen. And that can happen at any time.
24/7.
It is, and we've got some pretty big customers in the US. So often, if something isn't going as well as it needs to be, that's going to be quite early morning.
So what you might be saying is that the glamour of the badge is not quite what people imagine it to be.
I really enjoy the role. I enjoy the fact that I'm in a position where I can make decisions or I can influence. One of the things that's really, really important to me is creating on-ramps for people and creating opportunities. I say that because I found my first opportunity very difficult to get. It was really hard to get the first. So I make sure that wherever I am, I'm always sponsoring interns. We always have a grad program. We're always looking for opportunities to internally promote and our hackathon that we had last week was run by some of our most junior engineers. So I can help sponsor it and help coordinate, external sponsorship and things like that. But it's an opportunity to let the youngsters come through because we all had to, and we've got to not forget that. So that's actually quite a big focus for me because it's everything from, speaking at things like Dev Day, sending people to the universities to create, conversations with STEM students and stuff like that. You have to be proactive about it. Is what I'm saying.
I think there's also these phases in your career, right? Like you're very, not everyone, but lots of people are quite narrow in their focus when they kick off and they go, right, I've got to get to this next point. And then you get into the role and you want to make an impact as a leader. And so you kind of, right, cool, okay, how can I mobilize these teams? What do I need to learn to be able to make sure I'm a better leader? And then you kind of get to a point in your career where you're like, what's my legacy going to be? Like, what am I going to leave behind? What are the things when it's all said and done, that I want to have contributed to? People talk about putting the ladder down for the next, or like you've said, creating pathways. And I think that's something that the New Zealand psyche may not be as good at in being able to create that level of kind of what do you call it? the fulfillment of new opportunity leaders and new opportunities that maybe other environments do. What do you think?
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's even broader. So, one of the sort of the critiques I see that I have around, say startups in New Zealand is that we typically don't have a run book. If you talk to the startups in the US, it's very much well between this point and this point. Here's the size, the shape, the nature. Once we get to Series A, we do this, we do that, and it's even bringing people on and off who are tailored. Here, it's like, well, we'll just keep going. We'll just do the best we can. Yeah, rather than recognizing actually when we get to this sort of point, we probably need to restaff or add extra muscle or whatever it might be. Here's the kind of playbook. And I think that's the same throughout the company as well, from everything from bringing junior staff into the organisation to partnering. Typically, Kiwi tech companies that I've been involved with have had a philosophy historically of not wanting to partner, not wanting to bring specialist third parties in. I've always seen it the other way around, and it's frankly it's not for if it goes wrong, whose fingerprints are on it. It's that these partners have a broad reach, they have a broad customer base, they've done these things so many times. Help us understand the best way to do it. And that can be a cultural problem sometimes internally.
I think it is.
Because the staff are like, don't you trust us? And the answer is we do, but we want to add muscle and you're going to learn.
And focus on pieces of high value, which we can be the best at, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there was also, and it's one of the wonderful things about the New Zealand kind of culture, is that we want to do stuff on our own in the backyard,
Yeah.
and we laud
It's been successful.
in entrepreneurs like John Britton, who created like a performance motorbike in the backyard, which was incredible. The darker side of that is that you end up making mistakes that others have already made that you could have avoided. And potentially building up things that you think are valuable that already exist and are more valuable and more mature.
I think it's totally right.
And like one of the ironies is that if we think about how one of the things that the startup community or early stage community could get better at in New Zealand is cohesion, yes, but also don't solve problems that have already been solved, right? And just because we could build it doesn't mean we need to build it.
Yeah.
And you can stand on the shoulders of people that have gone before or use their stuff, right?
Well, I'm a big fan of hunting down plumbing projects and getting rid of them. A company that I was working for not too long ago, when I first started there, we had 6 different logging systems. So when you were trying to trace a transaction that hadn't worked, you'd actually use 6 different platforms to try to work it out, and they'd all been handwritten. And it's like, let's just move it to Sumo Logic.
Yeah,
it's in one place, and they specialize, and they're investing in it, and then we're getting the benefit. So I think you're right. I think that there is that balance, because I think Kiwi ingenuity is actually a really good thing, but it should be tailored into a vertical and not a plumbing horizontal.
Is this something that you've learned through experience of like I've wasted so much developer hours, or I've wasted so much of my own effort trying to build something that already exists? Or is it that you've kind of looked at it from a commercial lens and gone, actually, I get the engineering of this, and yes, it could be better, but actually the commercial lens says that we should definitely do this because it's going to be so much easier.
I think that changed over my career. So I think when I first was an engineer, and I was building plumbing stuff, and I valued it. I thought, and there is value to it. But as I progressed more and more, I think I embraced out of the box. I embraced platforms that already do that core functionality, and then as I became more and more responsible and accountable commercially, then absolutely I'd zero in on that. Because what the argument will be sometimes is it doesn't cost us anything because we built it. And if we use
what's the opportunity cost?
Yeah, this is always the thing, right? So when you actually run the numbers and the risk profile and the investment going forward, most times some kind of cross horizontal kind of capability, you're better to stay out of that domain. Just use it.
There's a book I always quote, Ben Horowitz's The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and one of the brutal lessons that he takes, and everyone knows about Mark Andreessen, right, with the A16Z.
Yeah.
He's been behind so many amazing American technology companies. He's the guy that told Mark Zuckerberg not to sell to Yahoo for $1 billion when they made the big offer. But he and Ben Horowitz built Loud Cloud, I think it was called. And one of the things that Ben Horowitz talks about in this book is he talks about how he had to figure out that there were people along the journey that would be beneficial to the company, and then when it reached a certain stage, they were no longer beneficial, even if they had great relationships. And I guess it's the same kind of thing with building a product. Like when you're kicking off, going from 0 to 1, yes, you've got to build everything maybe yourself, but then you get to a point where you're like, actually, we don't need to build everything ourselves anymore. Like we've got it to 1. We've even got it to 2. Now we're going 2 for 3. Actually, we need to stop building stuff. Like
That's right.
We need to use different things.
Yeah, and tune the build. Tuning it to the scale and the breadth of the customer base that you're providing products and services to as well. On the startup day, you want to do the least amount, and then you're going to get some kind of scale, and it's not going to be enough, right? And then you're going to have to invest more.
How many prototypes have been productionized, right?
Like, and they probably had to as well. Totally. There's a real balance between going early, but being very intentful around what's a POC, what's an MVP, what's a pre-release, what's a release, and then look at all of the capabilities that you need, everything from compliance, security, scale, and know when you're doing one of those things, that's what you're aiming for. If you're intentful about it, you know the risks and you know the trade-offs.
Like you have to live in the grey so much more in that kind of leadership role. I remember a guy I know well, Ian Phillips. He's now the VP of Engineering at Pushpay. He came in and when he came back from New Zealand, he was all about DevOps, and he went on to be a very good GM of engineering at Xero and DevOps as well. But he talked about how everyone ends up building a monolith. You can't, the decisions that you make because you're trying to get value quickly mean that you end up building a monolith often very, very quickly. Yeah. And so, it's not actually about saying we're not going to build a monolith. It's like, how can we avoid building a bad one, right? And so you look at the kind of the stuff that goes on when you're getting to a scale where you have to change out these components, because actually, let's not keep trying to build what we've been building, right?
Yeah. That's exactly right, because I think when you're first trying to get a platform into the market, you're wanting to do it as cheap and as effective as you possibly can. And even though probably your senior engineers will argue against it, just doing one deployment as opposed to 15 deployments of microservices, it's doing one set of Terraform instead of 15 doing, it's cheaper and it's faster. What the important thing is that if you are going at pace, part of that, I think, really early on when you're testing, product market fit, is that you're going to have to pivot quite a bit. Your idea is never going to stay what it was at the start. You're going to have to lean a few ways. And when you do that, you just want to make sure that the internal software design of what might end up being a monolith and then slowly but surely being pulled out, end up as microservices, is shaped, the software architecture is shaped so that you can do that. Making sure that you have good separation between classes, libraries, assemblies, all that sorts of stuff, so that when you want to move, it's a lot easier to pull these things apart than if it's really intertwined. Historically, a lot of that intertwining has happened down in the database, the 1,000-line stored procedures. That makes it difficult. When you do it up at the software platform layer, I think you set yourself up that you will go through iterations, and you can make that journey relatively easy.
I mean, as much as you talk about how it's a commercial role and it's about the people, you still need to be armed with all of the understanding about the architecture and the technology and stuff to be able to effectively lead, right? Or do you think that that's different now?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I actually don't. I think that there's the two sides to it. One is, say, the incident side. When an incident's occurring, I will need to make calls. Often they'll be strongly recommended by my team, but it's my fingerprints on them. I have to know enough about the technology, the impact, what our options are to be able to do that effectively. On the forward-looking engineering, platform architecture and stuff like that, I truly believe that if you're going to lead a highly technical environment, you've got to have some chops. Otherwise, you won't get the level of buy-in. You won't be able to build the high-performing team and lead that team just through some generic skill sets. They're looking to you to set the path forward. They're looking to you to hold those conversations at exec level and board level and get those initiatives done that they think. So I think I'm not sure. I haven't thought about that from a wider range of industries, but I think in the technology industry, to be a CTO, you need to have been an engineer.
Different question.
Yeah.
Does a CTO need to code?
Oh no, I'm going to get flamed either way.
Yeah. Well, I guess before you answer that, I think that there's also this misconception that the CTO badge means the same thing on every job. Like, if your goal is to get to being a CTO, you can be a CTO tomorrow by building your own product.
Correct.
And you're the chief technology officer.
Correct.
You're also the CEO. You're also the CPO.
Yeah.
Like just because you've got 3 letters doesn't mean that the job is the same. And so, I mean, it sounds super obvious, but I think that there's this perception that, CTO's got a code. And I think that there was some chat about how in OpenAI, the CTO, the current CTO, not the old, the lady who's gone on to do the AI safety stuff, but the current one is cutting code. And it's like, well, great, but doesn't it depend upon where the product is at, how big the team is, the nature of the product, all of these things? Like, what is your perception on how, does a CTO need to code? But probably a better question is like, at what point and how much?
My view is going to be a little bit subjective, right? But I've worked in numerous startups and I've worked in numerous scale-ups. More recently, last 15 years in scale-ups. I prefer to work in scale-ups. In startups, absolutely. I think CTO has to code because when you're going to probably start off with maybe a team of 7 people, and you'll probably
2.
Yeah, well, I've been in that too. Yeah, I mean, and in that case, the CTO is also going to be the platform architect. It was also going to be the partner manager. Is going to be on-call engineer. They're going to be a whole bunch of things. And in that scenario, I think absolutely, just from a scale point of view, and I think scale is probably the key word because where I think my sweet spot is kind of in the 100 plus, 200 plus engineers. A product team of sort of the 300, that scale up. I like working in that mode. You work with quite large customers. You get a lot of broad experiences and stuff like that. So that's where I try to work. I code, but I don't code Eroad's products. I code at home to be familiar with the latest tools, languages, platforms, AI engineering. But it's tinkering. It's
kind of how you learn those. Is how you learn through experience. Like, is that kind of the best way for you to learn? So
that's one way. I find YouTube really good. So I watch YouTube every day, and one of the verticals that I look at is what's happening in the technology industry, or something that I want to understand. So I just let someone tell me for 10 minutes on YouTube rather than me looking around the web for a couple of hours. So I find things like YouTube extremely helpful, and that's daily.
And so so it continues. I mean, I've got a theory, and I've said this many times before, but it used to be that leaders are readers, but leaders are learners, right? Like, you have to be evolving. You're never the finished product, etc. But there's so many mediums to learn from now, and there's so much content out there. Like, you've got to kind of be able to break down how you learn and experiment with it, right? Because some of it will be experiential, some will be theoretical, like learning through training videos and that kind of thing. Some will be, I like to learn by mucking around and then explaining it to someone and getting them to give me some feedback on that, and then I go away and learn some more. I learn from conversations a lot, clearly. But you kind of have to figure that out for yourself, right?
I think it's very personal.
You need to be continuously learning as a leader, but then also how? I'm not going to be prescriptive about it.
Yeah, I think that, I think we're learning that people learn differently and they learn better in some ways than others. And there's no better example of that than looking at how well your kids do at school and why. And whether that particular, type of learning is working for them. And I've had a wide variety of, my son, when he was at school, he didn't do so well, and he really resented going to school.
Mm-hmm.
He's now an apprentice painter, and he has to do his papers, and he loves it. And it's a different style, but it's a different content, and he's really in. And I think that second part is really key. If you're interested, you're motivated. If you're motivated, you'll absorb. So I try to focus on stuff that I am interested in because I know I'll learn better. And where and when I can, I try to test myself as well. So I try to do things like certifications and stuff like that. I don't be too public about it because what if I don't pass? And I'm not.
Have you still got your CCNP? Is it?
I don't really do the post on LinkedIn. I got my latest X certification, but I do use those to kind of test myself. Because I want to be able to have conversations with our team saying, what can we do with this? So an example is at the moment, one of our products, core data storage, is using relational database, and the data we're storing in it is not best suited for relational. It's best suited for document. So I want to learn all about document databases and where they won't be applied. And then I can go to my team and go, would we be better to do this? So that my main motivation is to keep that learning going. Otherwise, I think you fatigue, fall behind. I'm motivated. I want to be able to ask the team questions. And the other kind of element to it is, it's not unusual for a board member to come and talk to me or send me an email and say, "What about this?"
Yeah.
Right. And I want to be in a position where I can say, "Well, this is my view." So I try to keep it as broad as well as I possibly can, because they're interested in hearing my point of view, whether it's relevant to our company or maybe even one of the other companies that they're a board member of.
It's that whole interested thing and motivation. I mean, interest and motivation go up and down. I think that there's always going to be parts of your job that you love, there's parts that you like, and there's parts you dislike, right?
Yeah, sure.
And my stepdad used to say to me, he goes, because every now and then as a kid, I'd be like, "Oh, this is boring. It's so boring." He's like, nothing's boring. It means you don't know enough about it. And it does kind of touch, because I think that there's a whole bunch of technology leaders out there that don't enjoy the people management. Right?
Oh, I like it.
And I know you do.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like, almost resistant to it. It's like, actually, people are the problem that's never going to be solved, right? Like there's always going to be change. They're always going to be evolving and growing, and there's so much reward in it.
There is.
But if you go, "Oh, I don't like that, I find it boring," it's like, well, and I need to probably take my own medicine here, but it's not boring. It means that you probably don't understand enough about it, or you haven't applied your natural characteristics to solving the problem in a different way. And not that people are a problem, but that you go, okay, well, I'm highly systematic, and people management's not. Well, actually, no, it is. It's like look at that problem differently, uncover it, and try and apply your own thinking. Because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's fine.
I got a theory on this. Highly technical people often like complicated problems. People are complex problems. To your point, not solvable. Forever having to navigate. Complicated being something that's really difficult, but you can figure it out and you've got the answer. And I find that a lot of technical people are motivated towards complicated and not complex. I probably started off like that in my career too, but there would have been some turning point some time ago where I've become, actually, that's my primary thing. My primary thing is building a really good workforce, is creating a high-performing team. That's what's going to shift the dial for us, those people. And so that's where I put the majority of my time into them.
Do you, I mean, high-performing people, very, very difficult to, maybe you can create it for a moment, but to create consistent high performance is really hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got lots of different dials and things that are changing around you in the environment. How do you do that? Like, what are the kind of the principles for you? Like, do you have like a a three-legged stool, or these are my 5 Ps, or it's going to be different everywhere you go.
It is different.
What do you look for first?
I say to myself and to my team that we can always build the experience, we can always build the skill sets, but we can't just go and build the character. And I say to them, I want you to hire on good characters. And if there's gaps, there's always going to be gaps. We're not boxes and people just fit in them. There's going to be overlaps where we're over-indexed somewhere, under-indexed on something else. But our ability to attract and retain people in the team who have a similar ethos as we do, who can build genuine trust around us, who want to ultimately exit the role and look back fondly on the experience that they had, they're the people that's going to help us do really, really well. And, you know, I would rather have a team that didn't quite have the experience, didn't quite have the expertise, but we're in harmony with each other. They will always outperform a team of individuals who aren't.
So you die on that hill.
I do.
Yep.
I absolutely do. I use the words harmony. Will this person bring harmony into the team, or will they disrupt it?
How do you assess that? Like, do you have a programmatic approach to those things? Is it a bunch of quant and qual? Like,
it comes out in when I'm so if I'm recruiting myself, I basically do speed dating up front. I've heard a lot of good things about you. Let's grab a cup of coffee. So I always ask my network, what's this person like? I'm time poor. I'm going to take half an hour out. Is that person, you know me, so do you think that this will work? That's kind of where I start. And then I start looking at like CVs and stuff like that. The other side of it is that we do skip interviews as well. So if a VP is hiring, say a director, I'll meet that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I only meet them if my VP has said they want them. Yeah, and so I'm like, hey, I'm not going to re-interview you here. I just want to know who you are. I just want to see how. I also want you to know who I am, because I need you to want to work for me as well. So it's half an hour of a cup of coffee. I think you can learn a lot.
Yeah, I talk about that as part of processes that I run. They talk about that first meeting of the minds. I back myself to know the audience, and so if I know enough about the individual that's in the hiring position, I want them to see if there's a meeting of the minds, because if there's not that chemistry, if there's not that level of intuitive connection, it's not going to work.
No.
Right? Like, and it's as long as you're not getting your time wasted by that person not ever being able to be the right fit, then I think it's a great place to start.
I think you've got to back yourself.
Because also, it is a relationship. You're forming a relationship. And so whether that's in the professional context or the romantic context or friendship or platonic or whatever, you have a relationship with your leader or with your peer. And so if you're not going to get along right from the get-go, it's going to be tough. Now, there's times when you are put in a position where you have to work together, right? Like when you're entering into a new executive team, or you are coming into a team that's already been formed, and you've got to find your way through that. But that first meeting, to be able to create that chemistry, create that connection, great businesses and teams have been built off that sort of stuff, I reckon.
I think
you've
that's
got to be calibrated.
Right. I think you've got to back yourself. And I think you've got to go into that kind of half-hour kind of coffee with someone where you are saying, look, I feel now I've got to a point where I am a good judge of character, a good judge of people. I'm going to ask enough. I'm going to give enough, and I'm going to be like, you're not going to get it right every single time. And sometimes people might say to you, hey, you might want to have another cup of coffee with that person, and you're like, oh, okay. But I think you have to back yourself and back your experience. The second part to it, though, is that you're not only bringing in someone who's reporting to you. To your point, you bring someone into the dressing room. So when I'm hiring a really important role and I'm like, I think this is the right candidate, I get all of my direct reports to meet the person. Spend some time with them. See give me some feedback on it. And I've been in a position where I've had someone that I thought I was going to take forward, and I didn't end up taking them forward because of the feedback in the dressing room. I've also had situations where I've introduced one of my reports to other executives, and I've had them on the phone calling me going, hire that person, get them in. So I think there's an opportunity, and it's mostly that way, but there's also an opportunity to basically do pre-sales on other stakeholders. And the tone that I want really from my teams is when someone's starting, I'm getting pressure about when are they coming, not is someone turning up. It has to be. It has to be the hell yes.
There's a good study though. I think that you got to be in the right mindset to go into that meeting, because it is a critical meeting, especially first impressions, etc.
Yeah.
We can go through the quant of the data and the haze, building out the understanding about characteristics and whether you're a joy fit or whether you're a joy fick, or all those kind of things that they do through psychometrics. But if you are in the seat and you are totally focused and you are open and you're aware and you can build up your intuition in that half an hour, then you're going to get a good result. However, if you've come out of a P1 incident and you've been awake for 14 hours, then your intuition is not
I'll
there.
push the half hour out.
And I think that's interesting, right? Because they did that big study around judges, and they've got much higher, I think, conviction rates at between like 3 and 5 p.m.
Is that right?
on a judge,
Gotta close the day.
Yeah, they just want to get it done, right? And so you got to be aware of the fact that you are human, right?
Yeah.
And you may not be in that moment. So and I'm not discounting all the quantitative stuff in the psychometric profile, because I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's not an or, it's an and.
Well,
right?
I think the important part there, Julian, is like when you're looking at those models and testing against it, it's almost contextless, right? Because I've got to take into consideration I'm part of the context. So I could have someone who scores perfectly for the role, but my bias and my approaches and my characteristics, we're not going to work very well together. That's a reality. Yeah. So I just got to work through. I mean, to be honest, I find there's a higher degree of workability out of all the people that I meet with. Like, it's actually quite good, but you do have to test it, and you need to give them the opportunity to ask you questions that they might not normally ask, get to know you a little bit as well. It's not just me interviewing them, they're interviewing me as well. It's got to be that two-way thing.
And that also what you're talking about there with context stuff is super important, right? Because Ray Dalio in his book Principles talks about how he's got, so he ran the largest the largest hedge fund in the world, I think, at one time. And he gets everyone to go through psychometric profiling, but everyone carries a baseball card, like, of what their key characteristics are.
Nice.
And so whether they should be in the meeting or not, and So I think that you do have to look at that and get it informed. But when you look at what, if someone's coming into a role and yes, you feel really good about them, but the quant doesn't make sense, you can't make an elephant climb a tree.
No.
Right. And so I think that, yes, they need to be able to work with you for those things, but also this is still the job, right? This is still what the job needs to look like. And so I think we're going to enter into an era where there's enormous level of quantitative analysis around people's performance and experiences and all those sort of things. But we can't lose sight of, being able to build chemistry in a relationship with that person to be able to work with them effectively.
Teamwork is essential.
Yeah. What do you, like, when you're making difficult decisions, do you have like frameworks that you do run through? Because you say you back yourself, but how do you do that in an objective way? Do you have like any decision frameworks? Or,
I do. I try to make as least decisions as I possibly can.
Right.
Because
is that because you push them off onto other people?
You could look at it like that. It's because I'm always accountable, but I might not have the expertise that I need in a specific area. I think what I look at, I often are able to figure out what we need to achieve and why we need to achieve it, but I really need the team to tell me how we do that. Mm-hmm. So firstly, I coin it, kind of like two statements in a question, which is exactly that. We need to go and do this, and then this is why we need to do it. Mm-hmm. Being really, really clear about it, and then have the team on that, because I think that if you can just about set any goal that looks nearly impossible, people will figure out how to get there. They will do that. So I try to go strength in numbers, and I try to push it into my team, and I try to say, I want you to come back with an aligned view of how we're going to go and deliver on that. Say things like technology choices. So I've had people come up to me after panels and stuff like that and say, how do you determine what language you're going to use? I talk to my principal engineers, right? They're the ones who are using it. They're the one who's going to choose React over Angular or whatever it's going to be. I'm going to then ask them a bunch of other questions that they might not have considered. What do our partners use? Yep. What's the global workforce? And sometimes, so I think that's my strength to it. But that's just stress testing something that's really in their wheelhouse to make. But what I say is, like, if it goes well, we know who made the decision. If it goes badly, we know who's accountable. So what I try to do is I try to outline to my team, look, I want to start with endorsement. So what I want to be able to do is I want to set the outcome that we need. You need to work out what front end frameworks we're going to use. I believe that these are the things that we should be looking at. If it's out of that, let me know. But I'm wanting to endorse a decision that you guys should make. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then it has to move into guided, and that's when I say to the team, I bring the team, and I'm like, we can't get an endorsed decision here because you've failed. That was the job was to come back, and so I'm going to help guide you. I'm not part of the decision. I still want to endorse later, but I want to help guide you through to getting to the decision. If that fails, we still got to make a decision, and that's when I go, well, I'm going to mandate it, and someone's going to be unhappy, but you can't be unhappy at me because you failed on the opportunity to bring it together. You've forced the hand, and now the person who probably has the least deepest knowledge of the particular topic is going to make the call. And we don't really want to be there, but the worst decision is no decision. So that's where we are. So I try to go push the team, endorse. If it doesn't work, guide, and if that doesn't work,
you've got to back yourself that you've got the right people in the room, though.
Oh, well, that's why getting the right people is really important, and being able to have great confidence that they're going to come back with a really good answer.
It's cool because I'm pulling threads here, and the formula of trying to figure out what the formula is for you on leadership, and it's creating these high trust, high autonomy, fast moving environments filled with people that you back around their skills and their character. But,
absolutely.
But it doesn't work unless you've got the right structures in place, you've picked the right people, they've got alignment, they can get along well with each other and make decisions intuitively together. Like it's very reliant upon the people. This sounds super obvious, but the way that you're assessing those people and getting that validation and that's whole, what is it, recruit slow but hire fast, that you've got, you can only lead the way that you want if you've got the right sets of characteristics and the right skills, right? It's not like, it would take a long time if you don't feel like you've got the right team to evolve to being able to be in the position that you are.
Well, I think my current role at Eroad is a real good test point for that. We're in that place now, but it's taken 15 months, and it's taken. When I join and I assess the environment and I talk to the team about what I want to build, it was dramatically different than what I inherited, but I was very consistent, and I was absolutely day one. I'm like, this is what I think we need. And it needed some change as well. It needed some strengthening, needed some redesign. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to, I try to focus on what needs to be done immediately to stem some pain, but then set out over that kind of 12-month, because so then we can really accelerate. But no, my philosophy is that you do have to, you have to wire your success to the team that you've got. And if you really want that high performance, you can't do it without it. So,
like the how of how you get there though is that you are pushing them to learn and to make decisions and to take autonomy as much as you can it sounds very much like some of the parenting advice that I've had. It's like you give people as much freedom as you can. You give your kids as much freedom as you can. You let them make the mistakes, but then you start to guide them. It's like, okay, cool. Now, if you're still not getting it right, then I will come in.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Not that teams are full of children at all, but
No.
the principles of that leadership and how to lead effectively and to create self-sustaining teams that perform consistently and are in harmony is actually much more about freedom than it is about a programmatic approach, the systems, the right tools, etc. And I think that certainly new leaders get stuck into like, right, I've got to control these things. I've got to come in and make these decisions. And it's like, actually
you got to
pump the brakes.
Pump
the brakes. Like, you figuring out, are you actually clear on why you're doing this thing?
Yeah.
Are they clear on what their contribution is going to be? Like, and I think that's a trap. I've fell into that trap early on in the leadership. It's like, right, I need to solve everything. It's like, no. All you'll get is surrounded by yes people, and you won't actually grow the team or their capability, and they won't stay.
No, I think setting the right tone and expectation. Some people freak out a little bit because sometimes they're like, but I'm used to always escalating and, like, well, no, I actually need you to make calls and get on with it. I would, look.
It also means I can focus on something I want to focus on.
It can be a little bit like that, but what I genuinely say to my team, and I mean, is that, if I trust you, you're going to make a whole bunch of decisions. And if my boss trusts me, I'm going to make a whole bunch of decisions. And sometimes we're going to get them wrong, but we're going to get so many right. And timing is of the essence. So be decisive, make decisions, go forward. And if it's not right, pivot, move away. Don't collect, baggage. Just let it go and get on with it.
Yeah. And we're all going to make mistakes. And so when you're looking at our industry, and I really guess I'm talking about product development and product export here, not enterprise nor consulting or public sector. But what do you think? We talked a little bit earlier, but what do you really think the New Zealand tech scene, product exporters need to be able to take that next leap? Because I have had the experience that we're all, 4 sheets to the wind until about 22, and then it started to really start to dissolve about halfway through 22 when a lot of the funding started to dissipate. And then since then, we have seen very little kind of the sector being able to grow in the way that it could. There's notable examples of exceptions there, but in general, that early stage startup community, even scale up, just hasn't had the resources to grow. So I think that'll probably change over the next 12 months.
It's cyclical.
And it has changed, and I'm starting, there's definitely a feeling and some evidence to say that things are getting better. I've seen more startups happening. I've seen some scale-ups getting some money, and there's a much more positive disposition right now. But what do you think to take the next major leap, not the immediate stuff, the next major leap for the technology export market? What do you think the formula could look like? What's something that we could do?
I think there are some things we can do, and there's some things that we have to work with. Political stability at the moment globally is a real thing, and the instability of it. Everything from, we do a lot of work with transportation, and not all vehicles are built in the US, and then the tariffs and all these sorts of things, even our own hardware going into the US, right? So makes people nervous, makes people not know whether the multi-$100,000 truck is going to be 50% more tomorrow or not, and so hesitant in making this capital decisions. It's a real thing. You can feel it when you talk to your customers. We can't control that. So that's just something we have to keep an eye on, and I think that's going to bubble around for a while.
You think that's going to affect many of the organisations that are beginning to export their products?
I'm conscious of it.
Certainly seen that with the geopolitical tension with the US and just the current leadership of the US, the volatility that can happen from policy change, etc.
Yeah.
So that, like you said, we have to live with that.
We have to live with that.
Do you think that American market's going to continue to be a primary landing spot for New Zealand tech export?
Well, I think yes, it will, but I think it might have to come in different models, right? So, what I've seen before, where where often if we're going to become a landing pad in a particular area in the US, we would put bodies on the ground up there, already experienced to lead it. It's exactly what we did when we opened our Manila hub. One of our executives has moved to Manila, and they are well connected, have the Eroad way, and all that sorts of things. If you look at proposals around $100,000 for a visa and all sorts of stuff into the US, it puts barriers up. And given our relatively weak currency as well, it means we've only got half the spending power. So I think that will have an impact. It might change all tomorrow though as well. So if you applied for a visa, you might get $100,000 tomorrow. Who would know what's going to happen? So I think that's the kind of the thing that we can't impact, and it's highly volatile and it changes all the time. It's something we've got to be worried about. Locally, I've always had the philosophy that we work pretty well together. I see people who go from tech company to tech company, sometimes back, whatever. We're actually quite small, and generally we don't compete in the same vertical domain. There is some competition, but generally, if there's one payments platform, one accounting platform, there's not three. And so actually we've got a really good opportunity to collaborate and work together. I just don't see that really as proactive as it could be.
Yeah, it's funny. The example of the wine industry is often used where everyone's competing. The labels are all competing in New Zealand, but then when they go offshore, they all have the same New Zealand wine kind of show, right?
Yeah.
And I think that
it's like doing your OE.
Yeah. and I think that there's what has been good to see in that, certainly formerly in the SaaS space, you saw a lot of people, a lot of cohesion between those organizations. Often they don't plug together, so they can't kind of give an economies of scale thing, but it would make sense for there to be a unified kind of opportunity to go and sell some stuff together.
Yeah, it would.
What about the kind of the resources that we have, the skills that we have? I mean, we've had some shortfalls in particular skill areas. What do you think we need to bring more of in at the moment, just based on your experience, to create proper scale organizations?
Well, I think we have lost, or we have probably nearly lost, the come to New Zealand, it's a great place to work lifestyle. That used to be a real selling point for us to get people in. Having a weak currency, having a high personal income tax, having cost of living being really high, that's not very easy now compared to what it used to be. But I think the landscape will change. So I think that we're at a bit of an inflection point where software engineering massively dominates data engineering. I think that will flip to being opposite. Yeah. And I think that it will be data first, and so by that I mean agentic AI, MCP, all those things, data platform, and then API, maybe UI, maybe not. It's shifting. It's shifting, and I think data engineering, data quality, and the right data at the right time is going to be absolutely essential to compete. And I think so if I was talking to young people, maybe students at university or something like that, my advice to them would be, it used to be that you'd learn software engineering, you might learn a little bit of SQL, and make sure you're probably the other way around. Make sure that you focus data first, and then learn software engineering on the top of that.
The data space, I mean, I see it with the there's a big shortfall with the number of really well-equipped data technologists, and I'm talking about data engineers, data scientists, etc., data analysts. At the moment, that we don't have enough people well-equipped for scale, the data scale, and we know that the data needs are going to increase, and organisations won't be built necessarily around the old, technology software model. They'll be built around a monetizable data model.
Absolutely.
Right? And the ability to connect with that model. So it's like if we're setting up companies in that space, we need to bring those skills in, maturity, and then knowledge transfer to these younger folk, where they get those skills through university or through internships or whatever those things are. What about from like the policy perspective? I mean, I'm not going to ask you to cast your vote, blue or red here, but what have you seen offshore that you think could be a really useful policy for here? Because now you've got teams all over the place, right? Like, what are the things that you've seen work well?
That's a good question. I think I feel fortunate at Eroad with our intern grad, right? Because we have something like, I think 350 people applied for our internships.
Wow.
We bring that down to about 20. This was really difficult. And then they spend a day with us. And then our teams recommend the 10 or so that will join us as interns. I've spoken to the last groups of interns and asked, like, what's our reputation out there? And they said, actually, it's really good. And that's probably why we're getting like 350 people. But then when you narrow that down to graduates, we take about 5 or 6. We're about at our capacity. I'd love to take more. Right, so and the capacity is everything from opportunity cost of upskilling via senior mentors and all that, through to salary costs and all that sorts of stuff. I'd like more support on that. There is support for interns, so we do. Yeah, there is some, but I'd like a lot more. Otherwise, I can create more capacity. I can create more roles and opportunities if I had some kind of central funding to help me with that more.
And that those models have been in existence in Europe for a very, very long time, right? Where kids who are going through high school have the opportunity to basically spend up to 50% of their time working in an internship, and that is supplemented by the government. Now, my understanding, right, this might not be correct or not, but there is a large degree of supplementation that goes to the universities, but those universities are not tech institutes, the old tech institutes where they're equipping people with the skills to work. They're equipping people with the skills of knowledge. Now, if we're getting 70-80% of people coming out of high school and going to university to pick up a degree that allows them to join the bachelor's club, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of whatever, but they're not fit for purpose to immediately inject into the workforce, like what is that system broken, right? Like, because
I don't think it'll last. If I'm really honest, and I've said this to highly educated people before and slightly upset them.
They like their letters.
They do. They like the letters. They like the alumni. They like and look, these are great things. But when someone might be better equipped to spend 6 months part-time as an intern, part-time rapidly learning a discipline, they're probably going to be more equipped to enter the workforce into my team than possibly if they've spent 3 or 4 years in a traditional university. That's the harsh reality of it.
I'd love to see more boot camps funded by public money. I'd love to see.
I think it has to change.
More money going into Summer of Tech, like those kinds of organisations that are trying to help. I think would be massively advantageous.
And I think that things like Summer of Tech, I think they do really well with what they've got.
Yeah.
But back to my point, I would love to be able to create substantially more opportunities. What I would also like to see would be, and that comes back to that kind of New Zealand tech community part of the conversation, is transfers. I'd love to be able to see where people move from company to company, and that be an easily thing. When I have a staff member that's going to leave, and we've had the conversations of can we still keep you and all that. I'm 9 times out of 10 of the mindset of we'd love to have you back. If it doesn't work out, come back. Bring us some stuff that you learnt. So I don't really have a model for that in my head, but I just feel like we're walled gardens, and it'd be better if it was a lot more open, and that would strengthen New Zealand tech.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of evidence and a lot of research that says one of the best things you can do is run an alumni program where you have ex-employees who are still involved with some degree with the brand,
Yeah.
or obviously there's disgruntled, there's what do you call them, bad leavers, but there's
But generally not.
but like they've got all that domain knowledge. Like surely you want to have them back. They go away, they they do their thing over there. You love them, set them free, and then they come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like when you look at the sector, we talked about some of the things that could be better. What's the thing that's kind of freaking you out that's coming on the horizon at the moment from your viewpoint that could come along and disrupt things, or without the obvious AI stormtroopers? Like, what is there anything that you kind of like, geez, I don't know if we've got a solution for that?
Well, I don't know if I feel quite whether I have a solution or not, in terms of what freaking me out. What I'm really curious about is the rapid deployment and rapid development of startups and how that's going to change. Where, okay, everything has to be happy days scenario and on a good day, but when I can prompt, say, Bolt to build me something, and it just goes and does it, you're like, the ability to, when Figma came out, for example, was absolutely brilliant, right? And no longer did I have to have engineers building workable prototypes and stuff like that. It's taking another step now. And I'm really curious as to how quickly software products can come into market at scale with the least resources required. There's a real turning point here where the teams that used to win would secure large amounts of capital, build, attract really high talent, build a big team and go really hard. That go really hard and the capital used for that is now deployed into
sales and marketing.
Yeah. And
that's probably should be.
It's a good thing, yeah. So just the overall landscape of a really expensive entry into market is changing, and I'm curious as to the opportunities that will come out of that. I'm excited by it.
Yeah, I mean the New Zealand technology companies, that if that investment could go into go-to-market, into product marketing, the explosion of success, commercial success would be incredible.
This is where that export part can come in, because that's where our dollars can be spent well.
It's pretty cheap to export a product down the fibre optic cable.
It can be.
And the interesting thing around those resources, a friend of mine who's he works in private equity, a VC, and there's actually a website of the top revenue companies, startup companies, and how many employees they have to how much revenue they create.
Yeah,
obviously,
right.
Base AI, or what it was called, had one employee and just sold for $1 billion, right?
Yeah, I know.
But Telegram is actually, I think that they've got multi-billion-dollar revenue and they've got 30 people. That's it. That's all they got.
Yeah, they've got a captive audience. Though.
Yeah, they have. But that's it's interesting because a friend of mine who's an angel investor, we had a drink probably 5.5 years ago, just before COVID. And I said, after a couple of drinks, I said, well, what's your biggest investment dream at the moment? And he said, I want to invest in a company that has less than 5 people and can do $1 billion in revenue. And I laughed. And I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. And I said, that's never going to happen, man. And now who's laughing?
Yeah. It has happened.
And so it's just nuts to think about what you're talking about. Come back to that is like, what could that look like? And it's cool that you can look at it curiously. Because
I'm curious, but it's the concern, the caution is a lopsided amount of power base, and we see that with the social networks in it at the moment, right? Where actually, my wish would be that they would be disrupted in some way, because
or held accountable.
Or held accountable, yeah. Even in big organisations, sometimes the larger amount of footprint of the staff can have an influence when you only have a very small amount of staff. You're not drawing upon, you're not tapping into a wider amount of inputs, philosophies, and stuff like that. And
echo chambers.
Yeah, echo chambers. I'm curious about that. Like, will that be really successful? Will it not?
Fascinating manifestation of what could happen, because you can see how very quickly poor decisions could be made with high levels of impact.
Especially around safety.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Look, man, I could keep talking to you forever. So thank you.
No.
And I appreciate you
Thanks.
coming on.
Thanks a lot. Cheers,
Nice.
Julian.
Thanks.
This is your captain speaking.